what is the flippin' story? Very excited about today's episode. My first ever guest on the podcast today. And as well, we're here in the Primal Production Studio, which is just a phenomenal space. We've just been talking about it off air there for the last 5 minutes, just about how unbelievable the space is. And it's something that it's very conducive to creativity, to being creative, and just very, very happy to be here and have this, available to us. So I just want to thank Dan from Primal Productions as well for just being so informative about the whole podcasting, setup and the interviews, things like that. So very happy to be here with my father as the first ever guest. When I asked everybody on Instagram who I should have on the podcast, what guests I should have, a lot of names are coming up of people that I have seen kind of do the circuits of podcasting in Ireland. I've heard many different conversations from them. I'd imagine I might have been on other people's lists for people to get on podcasts as well, because I've done the circuit as well of being a podcast guest on many different podcasts. But a couple of people actually said something that really resonated with me, and that was, why don't you get your father on? And there was one person in particular who said, what a great conversation to have for the rest of your life, to have a conversation with your father. And the more I thought about that, the more it really just, it sat really well with me. And I thought, what a great thing to have for legacy. My children's children will be able to listen, this is Granda talking to your great Granda, having a chat, and it's something that can be passed down, and it's incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable. You dad and mom have lost both of your parents.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that we're going to have this, for the rest of our lives. No matter what happens to us, it's going to be here. It's going to be in the ether. It's going to be in the cloud. It's going to be somewhere, So that really just kind of put the last nail on this, and built this in my mind that I would get you on the podcast. And thank you so much for coming up.
Okay, first off, you refer to me as your father. I prefer Big Papa.
Big Papa.
Yeah.
You were listening to a bit of Biggie Smalls on the way up here.
I was listening to Biggie on the way up in the airport, yeah. And, yeah.
God, okay. Big
Papa.
Some
rhymes.
Yeah. Well, look, I really just want to have a fairly open conversation with you, because we've had many conversations over Scrabble or over an old coffee in the morning, and I'm like, fuck's sake.
And I'm whooping your ass.
We could have fucked it when you're whooping my ass at Scrabble. When I thought back at it, fuck it, we could have recorded that and would have been a great little piece, like great little anecdotes and stories and stuff like that. So I just said, you know what, we'll get you up here and we'll record it, right? So,
yeah.
Do you want to give a bit of a background of yourself, of just what you've kind of about yourself and your career and and that kind of stuff?
Do you know what? Just let it unfold.
Let it unfold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
rather
look,
than me announcing.
All right. Well, look, I just a brief background on my dad. You joined the army at 17 years of age. You spent nearly 40 years in the army. You travelled all over the world, East Timor, Western Sahara, Lebanon a number of times. You've been in war zones as a peacekeeper. Retired and are now working for the CSO as a government shill, and your and that's kind of like a general thing, but we're going to get into it a bit more today.
Mm-hmm.
So will you start at the very start and just tell me a bit about your childhood? Like, what was it like growing up?
I suppose, like I mentioned to you off air, Cons, a lot of people get turned off at the idea that when someone could have an idyllic childhood, but I really can't look back, apart from the first day I started school when my mother sent me in my father's tie, which was longer than myself. You're immediately a target. But the rest of it is I grew up in rural West Waterford, rolling hills, and we were that time you were just free to roam. Once you had your breakfast in the morning at summer holidays, you were gone until dark. You come back ragged and starved. But I really can't point to anything like I say, oh God, geez, I wish that hadn't happened to me, or I wish I didn't have that bad memory. It really was an idyllic kind of a childhood where you were left to roam, which, you know, a lot of people, you can't replicate today in a lot of ways because times have changed. But I can't really recall anybody ever reporting a missing child that had been kidnapped here, but we just seem to be that bit more aware that we can't let our kids roam free because something could happen to them. That, you know, I grew up in a place where there was 5 houses in a little, like, you couldn't call it a hamlet, about 2 miles outside Lismore, and it was just somewhere where we just rambled and basically did
a great place to grow up.
Yeah.
And it just
Cowboys and Indians.
Cowboys and Indians playing Cowboys and Indians around the place.
Soldiers. Yeah.
You touched on a good point there, right? Like, we don't hear about kids going missing every second day over here, but yet there is definitely a bit more fear nowadays, I think, in parents, you know. And do you think that media has had a big influence on that? Because, like, you know, like, news back then was the newspaper you got every day, which was slower than it is now, and the 6 o'clock news. That's you know what I mean. It wasn't every 5 minutes notifications coming up on your phone from this, that, and the other, CNN and Bloomberg and RTE News or whatever. Do you think that has kind of shaped things? And another question as well, do you think that childhood has changed as well in that way? Because, you know, we see my nieces, your grandchildren there, Isabel and Amelia, they are on iPads or phones or TikToks and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that they're some way robbed of a proper childhood in that way? So, you know, first of all, the media question, and then secondly, you know, do you think that kids are being robbed of their childhood?
Yeah, I suppose there's a conversation going on right now about the role of the media, traditional media, certainly, as opposed to, you know, the internet, the Instagram feeds, the Facebook feeds, and where people get their news, and, you know, an algorithm deciding what you are interested in, and getting only one side of an argument. I suppose, you know, when I grew up and you know, I became a father, I was, you know, concerned about where you were, but I don't think not as concerned as modern day parents are, because there seems to be this heightened awareness of all the bad things that can possibly happen. You know, like myself and Mam didn't really worry about ye when you were, you know, off, except maybe when you started bushing at whatever it was, you know, the legal age to do that kind of thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But
didn't touch a drop till my 18th birthday.
And just getting on to the latter half of your question, where the impact of devices now and what's on devices, and it has certainly, because I have lived a childhood myself, and I saw ye, you know, grow up, certainly, you know, without devices for the first half of your lives. There's definitely something that there is there's a bit of a robbery has happened. I'm worried about you know, the things that might have happened you in school, like bullying, all those things. They could have only happened outside the house one time. Mm-hmm. Now you're inviting, your door is open to the entire world, and there's no security guard, or mum and dad aren't in the hallway, like, looking at who's coming through and going up to your bedroom. That for me is a huge concern, and there's a big responsibility on adults and parents to be gatekeepers for their kids, you know, to prevent that bullying. Because, you know, we read about you know, young boys and girls who have taken their own lives because of the bullying that they've suffered online. And online is an unregulated Wild West. I'm not advocating for more regulation, but there should definitely be some sort of auto filter where any threatening or bullying behaviour can be just blocked somewhere and let it float in the ether where it belongs, and not arrive into some kid's bedroom.
Yeah, there's an argument right now, well, not an argument, I suppose, but a point being made right now that, like, you mentioned COVID or the vaccine or anything like that in a post, you'll get this banner at the end, click here for information on the vaccine or whatever the case may be, and they're saying like if they have algorithms that can pick up those words and can automatically flag them for information and things like that, why can't they do that for messages that are hateful or messages that are that are kind of more bullying? And it's like, I suppose the argument there is like, do we let Big Brother in? Like, do you know what I mean? Do we really let them in, and do we really allow them to control everything that we say? Because look, I am a believer, true firm believer in freedom of speech, and I am a believer that if I have a grievance with something, I should be able to say it, and it's like there's that line being drawn. Do you know what I mean? Between like something that's just plainly hateful, versus that something that's an opinion that maybe someone may not like. You know what I mean? That might hurt their feelings. And I think that's that is something that is definitely something that has to be explored more. And like, do you think that you had to grow up quicker? Like, because you left home. Like, I know you said that it was an idyllic setting, but you left home at 17 years of age. You had a job with your brother, didn't you not? In the sawmill that was next door to your house. And uprooting was not something that was very popular within the family, especially with your mother, who you were very close with. And like, what was that? There must have been something driving you or drawing you towards leaving. Not just because you wanted to join the army. Like, can you remember how you felt about leaving and how you felt about joining the army and doing that?
Couldn't wait to get away.
Really?
Could not wait to get away. Every hour I spent in the sawmill seemed like a week. It did nothing for me. First of all, for a couple of reasons. It wasn't stimulating for a start. It was boring, repetitive work, hard manual labour. I'm convinced it's still like the only legalised form of white slavery left in the world. But more importantly, the earliest memory I have of wanting to be something was a soldier, and it never changed. It never changed. The moment that I was actually legally able to join, I joined. And like somebody once said, do something that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I 100% agree with that. I can't remember a bad time. Yeah, there was bad times. Drowned to the cojones, or hungry, or tired, miserable, overseas after filling my pants because some shit had gone down. That I always knew those moments would pass. And look, you have experience of it yourself with the thing that we won't mention that you did recently. Even
ultramarathon running.
Running, where there is like, it is so much easier to give up, to just stop, because the pain will stop then, and you can. That's how you make it go away. You just stop. But I always knew, no, don't stop now, because this is going to stop. I won't stop. This is going to stop, and it's going to stop soon, and it's going to stop even sooner than you think, and that's how you get through it. So, yeah, like when you look back at your idyllic childhood, and every summer was blazing hot, and it never rained, and this is Ireland, and it's obviously not true. I look back over my career, and I can only remember the good times. And it just seems to be rolling every day. It was a good time. This is good times. I'm looking around. Everything is good. And I really can't remember bad stuff. And that stems from my childhood saying, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I went and did it. And no regrets.
And do you think, right, this is a question, I've never asked you this question before now, right? Do you think that because your childhood was so idyllic, right? And like I've had Nan's cooking millions of weekends, it was absolutely stupendous. Anybody that's going to leave that freely, like, you know what I mean, is a little bit thick, right? So you left that idyllic childhood, the, you know, home cooking, all this kind of stuff. Do you feel like that you needed that kind of hardship, that you needed that kind of struggle maybe in your life, that you were kind of like searching for a purpose? You were searching for, because obviously, look, if you've got something that you're living every day, right? And you feel like this is idyllic, right? Is your words, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're going in and you're doing a job that you find is, you know, kind of, you know, doesn't have a meaning or a purpose attached. Do you think at like 17 years of age, you were already searching for a purpose? You were searching for something to attach yourself to?
Yeah, I'd love to say something cerebral at this moment.
You just talk jive now. You
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You
But,
tell me exactly what you feel.
you know, like man's search for meaning, my search for meaning didn't really start with joining the army. Just to go back to the very start of what you just said, Nan's cooking. Like, I went from Nan's cooking, which was like, you know, haute cuisine.
Yeah, Michelin star
stuff. She's just naturally talented. From, like, she went to work in one of the big houses, you know, a Protestant ascendancy at
We've got
big
cameras
houses.
here now, so big houses, one of the big houses.
Big houses, yeah. No, it was a big house.
Yes.
Anglo-Irish ascendancy house at 14 years old. And she was taken on for, I don't know, £1 a week, and the following week she was on £1 a week, because that's how good she was, you know. At 14, she was gifted.
Yeah.
So I left that sort of standard of food, which I took completely for granted, as one does, because you don't know anything else. And I arrived into the camp in Fermoy to the first meal I got was a dinner, because I had been like doing the stuff that you do, signing the dotted line,
Getting your
and
boots and
swearing on the Bible and
all this.
all that sort of thing, and, you know, oath of allegiance to Ireland, and so it was dinner time, and I was presented with this plate of some shiny stuff in gravy. And some kind of pastry cover on it. And I came to know it as crussel, which was gristle with a crust. It passed as a stew. It was absolute muck, filth, and
Dirt.
If I ever had a time when I questioned my decision of joining the army, it was just at that moment, and it passed. I got used to it,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, Nanny's cooking was fantastic. Search for meaning. I probably came later. I don't know. Do you ever sort of at 17?
Maybe
it's
not.
only- at 17, no,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah.
I think maybe it comes a little later, and you know, and a little later than your 20s, or even a little later than your 30s. It's when you get to, I think maybe the first time I started thinking about, am I fulfilling my destiny? Am I doing what I was supposed to be doing? And that's probably more into your 40s. But I'd say we'll come to that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think we really are, like I was at 17, absolutely ticking boxes. That's all I was doing. At 17, I was going into the army myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was full set on becoming, going in, getting a cadetship, joining the army myself.
Yeah.
I went over to Kilimanjaro, and that was like, yes, to have a great experience, but like it was very much like I was driven to have that on a CV as well. Do you know, for a cadet competition and doing all of these things, and it did bring great, fulfillment to me in terms of like, having a goal, and ticking these things off.
Yeah.
It did give me great pleasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously that fell to the wayside. Lots of things entered my life, and I made some poor decisions, and I made some good decisions as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You make what you make of it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I suppose, you had this huge upheaval and lifestyle change at 17 years of age, right? Moving out, as I said, from Nans.
Yeah.
Getting the best of grub, and you're working in a job that you didn't really find very stimulating, and now you're in the army, right? And you're in the army for a number of years. You found your feet.
Yeah.
Like, what way are you thinking about it? Are you thinking like, yeah, this is my life, or were you always thinking about? Because look, I know you, Dad. Like, you're a smart man, and you even did well in your junior cert before you left school, and you didn't end up doing your leaving cert, which I know is a regret for you. Similar regret for me not joining the army and things like that. It was something that, yes, we regret, but we now live with. You know what I mean?
I didn't know you regretted joining the army. That is still with you, but that's something I'd like to ask you about, actually.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So you're in the army, and then you're in the army for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you meet Mam, and you start a relationship, right? One of the big things, because like I'm 30 years of age now, right? I just got a dog about 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And when I got Sula, I was thinking like, am I going to be, a good enough dog parent? Am I going to be able to take care of her properly? Am I capable of looking after another life and being responsible for something that's not me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you became a father quite young.
Yeah.
You were 26 when Sean arrived, and then you were 28 when I arrived, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever have any, do you think the army supplied you with some confidence that look, I'm after doing all of these courses, and I'm after looking after all these recruits, and I'm after, going overseas and not dying, I'm doing pretty okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any, times where you thought, Jesus, am I going to be a good dad? Am I a good dad? Am I doing a good job?
Yeah. There's an incredible amount of stuff in what you've just said, and it'll take multiple podcasts to sift through that and pull out stuff. But I go back to what you said at the beginning. I joined the army at 17. I actually found a family right from the first week. We were 32 young lads, because when I joined up, no females in the army. Shortly after, I don't think we'd finished recruit training when they were talking about allowing them in, and by the time I was finished my 3-star training, the first women's platoon was in, all women, because
they were segregated for a time.
Oh, they were terrified that these women would be, my God. But yeah, okay, we'll get to that. But the family, your family of origin, the family you grow up in, like we were spread across. My oldest brother Sean is 13 years older than me. So by the time you start to get to an age where you start to kind of interact with each other as a family, he was already gone. Like he was married when I was 9. Do you know that kind of thing. Jerry followed a year later. Dennis a year later after that. 3 of them getting married. So essentially, I had no older brothers at home. They were all gone. Mm-hmm. I had 2 younger brothers, but I lacked that kind of thing where, there's I don't know what you get from older siblings, that kind of thing. But, it was you have your interactions with people at school. It's only during school hours, that kind of thing. I was in the army where we were together like 24/7. We all slept in 2 billets, you know, maybe 15 in each billet, or maybe 15, 20 in each billet. You pitched up, you rocked up first day, and like you had your bed, and the 2 guys you decided you didn't know them. By the time a month had gone by, you'd be ready to
Take a bullet for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just this experience through a kind of a shared suffering, because it was no picnic, do you know?
Yes.
There are things now about like bullying and harassment legislation in the army that I'm pretty sure that they knew how to address all those issues just from my recruit platoon. It was, it was mad. You couldn't possibly get away with it now. But there's a book by Richard Holmes who wrote about how units are formed, and the rougher they were treated, the more cohesive they were in battle. I absolutely, firmly believe that. There must be some sort of shared suffering in order to form that cohesion. And like, I'm still friends with.
Yeah,
with
you have a wedding at the end of the month with Terry. You know what I mean? You know him since day one.
I'm still friends with all those guys, and I would absolutely you would feel like it's a real. It's brothers and now sisters in arms. There is no other job that can give you that. You rock up to your office or your factory and you're not like you wouldn't take a coffee for them, not a mind take a bullet for them. Do you know what I mean? It's just different. So it's not a job, and it's not a calling. It's not. I don't know what it is, but it's like there's some bond there that never ever goes away.
I trust you because you've been through the same thing as I have, and you've come out the other end of it, and I know what you've been through.
Yeah, and
so there's a kind of a shared kind of thing. I suppose on a less similar kind of a thing, it's like on the rugby pitch with people. It's like you want to put your body on the line for the team because if you don't, someone else is going to have to. Yeah. And you
get found out if you don't.
Yeah, and you feel that kind of interlinking duty almost. No one really actually talks about it, but yet, like you're in the billets with the lads having a laugh and a joke, and you're probably ripping the piss out of each other and saying things that you would hate if anybody recorded, right? Yeah. Terrible, awful things to each other, but like there's an unsaid kind of thing maybe that is like like we laugh and joke, but like if shit hits the fan, I'm there for you,
Yeah, and overseas, you started to you asked me, did that prepare me for anything?
Yeah, for the rest of your life.
And absolutely, it gives you like resilience. You start to believe that there's actually nothing that they can throw at you that could make your head drop when you trek over and you're very familiar at this stage living in Wicklow, you know the Wicklow Hills.
I do.
It's you do it for the crack.
You do it for the crack of the whip.
But as a recruit, I remember coming over the Sugarloaf and coming down towards Dwyer's Monument. I
know it.
Yeah, and seeing the truck, and this was after 3 or 4 nights on the ground, bone tired, dog tired, feet in tatters, brain in tatters, as a recruit, and all you can think of is, I just want to lie down. And there's the truck, and we reach at like 20 feet from the tailgate, and the truck pulls off. And you've had experience of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yes.
And it'd be so easy to break.
Yeah.
But you just look around and you pick fellas up, and you get picked up yourself by fellas. A look, a glance, it can be just a punch on the shoulder, and that's where you get your resilience from. Does that prepare you for fatherhood? Absolutely not. The scariest You know, I had. Let me see, how many had I? I had. I had 2 trips overseas when Sean came along. Nothing in recruit training, nothing in any of the kind of training or the courses I'd done. None of those 2 trips overseas with their, the odd hairy moment could prepare me for the fear I felt. Not when Sean was born, when Mam told me she was pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. And if your question is, when are you ready for fatherhood? You're not.
Never ready.
You're never ready.
Yeah.
And there's no good time.
I think it's an understandable thing when it's like that's life changing.
Absolutely.
You know?
Because I know probably going through your head now, you're saying, geez, I couldn't become a father now because I've got this on, I've got that on, I've got that on. We had just taken out a enormous, we took a punt on a business. There was this, I don't know, we were talked around, we were talked into it. I'll never be talked into anything again. We were talked into it, and we had just taken out a new car for this business. It was selling advertising space on clocks that were put up in various businesses. So we were like stretched to the limit. We needed. I was still in the army as a lowly trooper, and we needed, all hands to the pump. Mam needed to work at this while I was, in my full-time job at the army, and I was going out at weekends and that kind of thing. And then in like December of 1988, Mam rocks up the street with a smile, like, as the wit of Tuckey Street it was at the time. I said, "You'll never guess." And I said, "You're pregnant." And she said, "Yeah." And I just thought, my world just fell asunder with 2 words: I'm pregnant. Because, I said, oh my God, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
But here we are years later, we're grand.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, so nothing prepares you, and you can be in the shittiest of situations, or everything, all the ducks can be in a row. I think the experience is just the same. It's equally scary.
It reminds me, right? I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I took what is actually, it's a Persian adage, right? Of
I was going to say cat.
Yeah, it's a Persian adage. It's 4 words, and it's "this too shall pass." Right? Yeah. It's been adopted by many different bodies, including Alcoholics Anonymous and a few other bodies that have used it as this kind of thing of, whatever you're feeling right now, this too shall pass, and it works both ways. It's not like oh, you're going through a shit time, you fucking debts up to your ears, and you've got a pregnant wife that you don't know how you're going to be able to feed and clothe this child. Yeah. It's also for the times where you feel like everybody understands you. You're on the right trajectory and everything's going well. The ducks are fucking lining up perfectly for you, and everything's going to... This too shall pass. There's so much that can change. It's like the amount of times that I thought my quote unquote my life was over. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you can catastrophize things as well in your head. You know what I mean? There are really bad situations that we can be in, and I don't think I've ever been in a horrific situation in my life, really. Mm-hmm. I've been in situations where I felt like it was a horrific situation. Yeah. But I just don't think I had the tools at the time to really, untangle it. You know what I mean? But as you said numerous times there when you were talking about resilience, right? Yeah. Basically all resilience is the ability to adapt and to change. Yeah. And to change our outlooks and our actions at a time when something comes up that we're just like, holy fuck, this is like a complete blindsiding. Yeah. And the thing is, right, a question there now for you. In that situation where you've got a wife that's beaming from fucking ear to ear. Yeah. And you are firmly planted on the ground. Yeah. Right? You're firmly planted in the... We're in shit tons of debt here.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to fucking pay things, and you're fucking delighted that we're having a child.
Yeah.
How did you handle that situation? How how did you handle it? And two, do you have any advice for anybody that's going through any similar situations? Like,
you're absolutely right, because myself and Mam represented both sides of the same coin. Those are the same coins, because you quite rightly pointed out the good things in life are over in an instant. You can be having, great. It's like the 2-week holiday where you're just living the life, and next thing you're back home, and the holiday's behind you. The good things come to an end. The bad things come to an end as well.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do is just tell yourself, as you have with the ultra marathon, with your many, running experiences, done some, really tough things, going up Kilimanjaro at 17, no picnic, you just have to realize that this isn't going to last forever, and I think maybe people who get really, really down don't have that sort of inner voice that tells them this is going to pass, this is not going to be. And there's another factor is I'm an eternal optimist, not by choice. I just am. It just I don't have to work at being optimistic.
it comes to you naturally.
It just I don't kind of dwell on negative shizzle. It's just because not consciously, I don't tell myself everyone I'm not going to concentrate on. I'm not. If anything bad happens today, no, I'm not going to let it affect me. It just doesn't appear on my radar.
But
at all.
Psychologically, from the studies that I've done, that is a skill. That's something that you've honed. So, do you think it?
Well, I definitely haven't, Constance. I don't hone it.
The thing is, right? Look, you could say that you think, but most of the things that happen to us in the making of our personality are completely subconscious. So, what I think from your side, I'm gonna pose a point or an argument to you, and you can refute it, right? What I think has actually happened to you is you've probably been in so many different fucking shitty situations, from, let's say, the army, or times where you've been in debt, or times when you've had to face things like Mam telling you that she was pregnant and all that kind of stuff. That
wasn't a bad thing, no.
Absolutely. No. Sean, you're very much wanted. You're very much wanted, and I love you, and you're my older brother, and I love you to bits. But what I would say is that bounce back ability. That's what you have.
Yeah.
It's that oh, that's fucking shit, and then boom, you're back.
Yeah.
That is it's definitely a skill, because and what's after probably forming for you is it was probably something that you kind of had to, at one time you might have even forgotten. Now at this stage, at this one time you've thought, fuck it, I can't do anything more about this. I need to actually concentrate on how I'm going to make it better.
Yeah.
And you've probably, consciously made that decision so many times that now it's oh shit, things happen. But you're also at a different stage of life than me, even, you know what I mean? You've 28 years on me, and it's that's that experience of life and of time as well, that kind of, when you get to that point, it makes it easier maybe to bounce back from things. But as you said, it did work out,
Yeah. Do you know, I'm quite sure there are probably people who have probably flipped the switch on this now, because this fellow with his idyllic childhood, having lived this fantastic life, which had its huge highs for me as a soldier, has had this mega successful son with his own podcast. This is just saccharine sweet, as just too sugary, and he's such an optimist. And I can't offer any advice to anybody on how to be optimistic. It's just something it either affects you and you let it affect you. I'm not sure if that's the right word.
Yeah.
Let it affect you. People are affected by stuff, obviously. But I have an absolute fantastic gift for not remembering bad shit.
Yeah.
Because I'm absolutely certain, like, I'm the same as anybody else that's walking around this earth. Bad shit, I'm sure, has happened. But I would really have to delve into saying, geez, yeah, that was bad. It just doesn't affect me day to day. I am acutely aware that there are people who are affected by stuff that happened, to them in their childhood or yesterday, and can't shake it off. I'm just not one.
I definitely was somebody, 100%. If there's anybody listening now that kind of thinks, Jesus, I'm not an optimist and I'm a person that allows people to affect me, I was completely that. Yeah. Completely that. You know that, Dad, from years of me kind of bad shit happening to me and me just absolutely not being able to shake it. Like, I've discussed this on the podcast loads of times about, these times where I kind of hark back onto because they had such an effect on me.
Yeah.
And that was, like the loss of the Irish title. You know how much that meant to me.
Yeah.
And how much years of training and diligence and discipline I had to put into that. And then it to come crumbling down.
Yeah.
I found it incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
To get over that, and incredibly difficult to deal with that and think about it, my life in any way optimistically. Yeah. Now, through, I think, honing the skill, which I think it is a skill. It's a skill to have resilience, to have that bounce back ability, to be rubber. You know what I mean? And to be able to move and be flexible. It is a skill. Yeah. And I feel like putting myself, because I would have said my life, like, I had my own problems in school and all that kind of stuff, but I don't have any like huge memories of being, of really terrible times as a child, right? Yeah. So like, I don't think I had that, that childhood that would have needed me to be resilient, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have put myself in the last number of years in many, many situations where I have to actually be a bit optimistic, where I actually have to kind of go, well, look, it can't get any worse than this. Or, or Jesus, like, at least it's not raining. Or those little things that we can tell ourselves in those moments and times.
Why do you put yourself in that position? Why do you do those things?
I it's a really good question. It's something that I have talked about numerous times. I really do feel like there are multiple facets. I think it's an externality as well. I think just like the army is an externality, right? Yeah. The army is an externality because it's an identity. It's an attachment. It's something who you are as well, know?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm attached to that person now as well in ways. And so, although it gives me huge meaning and it gives me huge purpose to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go running in the dark, and I love it, like, you know what I mean? And I feed into it, and I feed into I don't want to get the fuck up. Why would you want to get up when I'm in my nice cozy cabin and Mel is laying right next to me? Yeah. Why would I want to get out of the bed? But I do like that fight.
Are you and Mel sleeping together, are you?
We actually we sleep in bunk beds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sleep in bunk beds. We're waiting to get married.
Okay.
So I do like that, because I do like going against that voice in my head, which I think then makes me far better.
Yeah.
I think it's transferable. I think it's transferable to shit just not going right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking wheel falls off the car. You get fucking speeding fine. These small inconveniences are just absolutely, I can compartmentalize them.
Yeah.
And I don't allow smaller things like that to stress me out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that I do them because I want to hone the skill of, and I think that it's transferable.
Yeah.
So like, going on from, you said there, the army actually taught you fucking nothing about being a dad. But like, maybe it affected you in that way, when, like, I would think that it would have to affect you in some way, right? When, let's say, now you've got a child who's screaming, crying, you've no idea why they're crying. Your wife is meant to be home 2 hours ago, and you're got another bill through the door or whatever. Yeah. There has to be that maybe something that you've learned from that time that kind of allowed you to like when you're in the trench, kind of see around you. You know what I mean, and see that it's not going to be like this forever.
You mentioned something, at the very beginning there of the last points you've made, that when you lost the Irish title, and you had an existential crisis, for
Hugely,
the want of a better term, and I would say I had never experienced that until I retired, because I had that existential crisis because my identity was absolutely bound up in the army. I was, that they were my family that coexisted with you and Connor, or you and Sean and Mam. You were like, I had that family that I went home to. If I wasn't deployed overseas, that when I went home to at like 5 o'clock in the evening, and when I was overseas, I had my other family, or when I went through the barrack gates in the morning, I had that family, and that's what it is. I mean, it's like if you are with people that you are prepared to take a bullet for, they are family. There's no two ways about it. And my identity was so closely bound up with that. And when that all came crashing down on the 10th of June 2019, when I had to retire on age grounds. I don't know if people are aware, but your rank is tied. Your retirement age is tied to your rank. So, if you're a certain rank on a certain birthday, that's it. It's curtains. So, and then I started to cast around for meaning. And it was only then I understood what you might have been feeling when you were a TIE fighter, first and foremost, and then you were all these other things.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I was a dad, but I was a husband. I was a friend to people. I was, we all are lots of things to lots of people, but there was this thread running through my life from the age of 17 to 56, where I had this family, this group of people who, they have your six, it's hard to describe to people because you don't get it in the factory, you don't get it at the office, you don't get it anywhere else except through military service, and trying to fill that vacuum, to try and find purpose and meaning in life, and I had heard you speak on various podcasts about trying to recover from that loss. It's phenomenally dark place.
Absolutely.
I do not envy anybody who felt like I did for the first 12 months after leaving the army. The only thing that saved me was, first of all, Mam's love and her forbearance and patience, and second, kettlebells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the one thing I could do that I always did in the army that wasn't dependent on me pulling on the uniform in the morning was train.
Yes.
And you know how,
Yeah.
you know the value of a good punishing workout where you leave it all.
Yeah.
And fortunately we still had the gym at home from your fighting days, and I was able to go in there and I suppose get the bit of endorphins released in the mornings, and somehow managed to carry me through the day, which was having operated at a fairly high level and then go to like zero was.
And the pandemic on top of it.
And the pandemic on top. And I'm sure there are people, who can draw analogies.
Parallels with that.
Parallels with that. People of your, your generation, like who, let's say, you're in a relationship for, X amount of time, and all of you is bound up in that relationship, and that relationship ends. Wow, darkness descends. Things are never going to get better. They're going to get better. Grand for me to say it, but you have to be proactive. You have to do it. One of the things was, as I said, Mam's love, but the other thing for me was training. So take action, do something.
Yeah. I say it to people an awful lot, and it's because I was waiting for it as well. Was there's no one going to swoop in through the window and pick you up out of the way you're feeling.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And I think there was a time as well where, and I don't know if you felt like this too, I almost felt comforted by just being in the darkness. I just felt like I was feeling shit, and I there was times where I was like, John, I don't mind feeling shit. I don't expect any more from life. That's what I had felt after the Irish title fight, and I didn't proactively seek a solution. I sat into it, man, and I just didn't even want to allow in the possibility that life could get better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I wallowed as well.
Yeah,
but I didn't actively wallow. I didn't decide to wallow. I just did. It was black and dark and fairly hopeless.
Yeah.
I said, geez, like, am I really washed up at 56? Do I have nothing else to offer? Was it like I was keeping so many plates spinning in my job? I said, like, you realise, they can do without me. Like, there's,
the army hasn't crumbled since you left.
No.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They haven't.
This is that's a fantastic point, right? Because it's about, like, what has changed for me is the script that I read for myself in my fucking head, man. And that is like, I'm fucking worthwhile, like, you know what I mean? And I'm a good person, and I have so much to offer the world. It might not be a fucking great fight in a ring. Yeah. I might not be able to offer that. And I have to, as much as I want to have that leather around my belt, it's not, and it never will be, right?
Yeah.
What I had to realize was that the only person that was keeping me down, the only person that was keeping me from changing my life was me. And so when you reach that time, because I remember that time for you as well, Dad, like, it was, I did feel like you had changed. You were different in a way, the way that you acted, the way that you carried yourself. I always found you to be a very confident man and a very capable human being.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was some of that was just stripped away, as much as you may have tried to maybe, put on the brave face kind of thing, what you've been talking about here at the first part of the idyllic life and the bad times and all this kind of stuff, you just hit it much later than many other people have, and you hit it much later in your life.
Yeah. And I said I didn't understand, I couldn't empathise with you at the loss of the Irish title. For me, it was just, you lost
Pick
the fight.
yourself up, dust yourself off.
You lost the fight, I couldn't even draw an analogy, because for me, it wasn't significant. It's only when I lost that, that huge sense of loss that I felt, and I said, this is what Conor was on about. This is what, where like, you're looking around, it's just hopeless. Like, what is there? Like, sure, there's no point in having a shower. Sure, what am I getting myself cleaned up for? You could so easily. You could do, and I don't know what. There's no medication anyway. Will because they're sticking plaster over a gaping wound. It's not going to work. It's waiting for someone to come and help you as well. Can anybody dig you out? I believe it's within yourself. Support, absolutely is essential.
Yes.
From somebody. Like even now, you and me talking, I'd say, like I don't know what other relationships that other dads have with their sons. We've probably spoken more in this past 45 minutes, and we're comfortable doing it, than most dads and sons will if you take it over the course of 5 years, they won't have said as much as we say, here this morning. That, like, being able to talk is essential. Being able to tell Mem, or more importantly, as you know, Mem is a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
So she's intensely aware of what's going on with people. She's got this sixth sense, and she knows when to broach something, and she just knows how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Which is, a gift.
And she knows when to give you space to breathe as well.
And she knows when to give you space, and she knows when you might be ready to hear something that's uncomfortable. She might, she knew when to say, you're not an army officer anymore. She knew when to say that, and when it wouldn't hurt for me to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's at that stage where you can start to kind of
heal.
Yeah, you to come to grips with, I'm actually not, and there's my identity in tatters somewhere, and you just begin to look at the scattered pieces and say, I'll pick that piece back up in here because that's relevant. I'll pick that piece, and I can look at pieces of uniform now, and they're not even registering with me anymore. And this is 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
Whereas I would have walked into the walk-in wardrobe at home, and all I saw was the beret, the shirt, the boots. Now I can look at them, and they don't, like, and you just turn it back, and they're not even after registering in my radar.
Yeah.
I'm healed.
And how do you think you got to that point? Because, like, there's a huge U-turn that has to take place. Like, the thing is, it's a U-turn because you have to change, you have to turn the whole fucking bus around, but it might take you a long time to make that full turn. And there's going to be times as well where you think you've made the turn and you go, oh, Jesus Christ, actually, maybe I'm not as far along
Oh, absolutely.
as I thought I was,
You have that bright summer day,
Yeah.
and then it's pissing rain, tomorrow. And you say, look, this is more normal now. The rain is normal. Definitely, time is one thing, and I'm acutely aware that there are lots of people who thought they were out of it, and that it was never going to get better.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's I referred to that eternal optimism earlier. It's not an active thing where I tell myself every morning, geez, I'm an optimist. I'll be grand now one of these days because I know it because I'm optimistic. No. My optimistic self was absolutely absent. Right. So it's just time. And I didn't give myself time. Mam gave me the time. She gave me the time.
Gave you the freedom to go through the shit, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, the thing, you were saying there about, giving it time. It just brings back to the point that we raised earlier, like, this too shall pass. It's 4 words. And, like, I think that slogans and, motivational things and all that kind of stuff, a lot of them can sail over the head and they can be kind of bullshit artistry, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
But
for the first time in my life, I wasn't able to come up naturally with that. This too shall pass. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't aware that this might pass. I couldn't see that it would pass.
You thought 56 up until that point, great. I'm in the army, and then the rest of my life is just gone.
Yeah, because I failed to engage with the idea that I was going to retire. Absolutely didn't. Okay. And not consciously either. I absolutely subconsciously did not want to think about retiring.
It's like, I'm comparing this to a death, right? Because there's a death of you, right? There's a death of me.
Well, I lost a family.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But you lost a complete life structure, really.
Okay, I have the WhatsApp groups that I'm still in, and you know I can meet fellas now, you know, for a coffee. They might nip out at lunchtime. They're in uniform. I can actually sit down and not feel that gut wrenching pain and regret and missing something. But I did lose a family, and it's just like, you know, you pointed out, I've lost my mum and dad. Mam has lost her mum and dad, and she's lost siblings. It's just that time and remove that eases that pain, and it's exactly the same way of, you know, that when I retired from the army, it was just like a death.
Yeah,
just like a death. And I don't know who in your audience has experienced it. You're all young enough to, the vast majority of people has still got their parents.
Yeah,
so
lots of different people will have lost parents and would have been, even your age or older or younger. So
So that's the only thing I can compare it to. Yeah, a death, and it was like, it was the longest piece of mourning that I've ever done.
Yeah,
you know, even for my own mum, who I was so close to. You know, there's a period of time, and then you start to feel a little better, and that happened very quickly because maybe of that inbuilt optimism that I don't have to actively work on.
Yes,
but this time it just that inbuilt optimism.
You searched for the file on the computer and it was gone.
Gone.
Yeah,
gone.
Someone had put it in the bin.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gone out of the recycle bin. I wasn't able to draw on anything.
Right.
Except it was external, and it was brought by Mam.
Yes.
There's I was very, very fortunate. So that's why it's so important to have somebody in your life that can give you that support.
Because that's the start, right? So like let's say if we're talking about this in terms of percentages, right? If you're talking about the percentages of you and the percentages of support, for me, it didn't matter what anybody said to me about, because I really felt like I had lost a family too, because it was the first time in my life I never really fit in school very much. And when I joined Thai boxing, I was 17. I was starting to kind of get to know, I was starting to basically act a bit more. I found it easier to make friends, and I found it easier to be in social circles and stuff like that. So I made buddies very quickly in Thai boxing. I was also good at it. So when you're good at a sport, other people are kind of, without you even knowing, looking up to you. The younger lads, or maybe even some of the other lads that were same age as me, were looking up to me, and all this kind of stuff. I'd always be fighting. I'd take a fight at the drop of a hat. I'd always be, training hard and all this kind of stuff. So I had this feeling that I had never had in my life. I never had this thing of, I'm good at this. I wasn't particularly good with girls at that stage. I wasn't really particularly good at school. I was a mediocre student. And I found out that I was a small fish in a big pond in terms of rugby, right?
Yeah.
So I found out that I was just off the pace. And so then when I found Thai boxing, it gave me this release of one, it's a great outlet for me. Energy being built. And I think that as well, having that purpose through activity. So you had that with marching drills or with firing range, standing post, and all these kind of things that you have attached with being a soldier. Yeah.
You found your external family.
100%.
With
100%. And it was completely...
Even though you were this law student, and you were knocking around with fellas who'd been through juvie, you were, opposite ends of the same spectrum.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I was trying. I could fit in with the law crowd at that stage, but I felt really way more at home with the Thai boxing, because, bringing back to your point, we had a shared experience. We had a shared going through the fucking trenches, cutting weight, hard fucking training, getting into the ring and fighting a man. Fucking getting a bare shin across the ribs or across the legs, or
into the face.
I know what that feels like. You know what that feels like. We're both going to train and sharpen our fucking weaponry for this combat. there is a huge brotherhood. Like people say, oh, it's a solo sport. It isn't. It's fuck. The only solo part is when you're actually in the ring for those 3-5 minute rounds. Everything is built on that connectivity, that brotherhood and sisterhood, right? That you get into the trenches and you're in that.
You don't want to let somebody down.
Absolutely. I want to win for my trainer. I want to win for
the lads in the
Martin.
club.
I want to win for everybody. I want a win for Siam Warriors, not just for Conor O'Keefe, you know? And so when
that's why your identification is so closely bound up
stitched into it.
Absolutely.
You know? And so like drawing parallels between me and you in this whole thing about it, I felt like it was a debt as well. And I felt like this is the thing where I feel like now I've been very careful not to attach my identity to ultramarathon running, because I've had periods of time where I haven't been able to do it, and yet I've kept a good mood and I've kept a good way of life and I've stayed getting outdoors and active. I've been a good partner to Mel. I've been a good dog owner to Sula. I've been a good son. I've been a good person to me through times when I've been injured and I haven't been able to run a single kilometre. And it's because of this removal of, I'm Conor. No matter what I do, I'm always Conor, and I'm always a good person, and I'm kind, and I want to be kind to myself. And so I wear multiple hats. But yet I'm always me at the end of the day when I take off whatever uniform I've been wearing, you know, and drawing that analogy of, you know, the tie boxing gloves and the tie boxing shorts is that uniform, and the uniform that you wore.
But you're fortunate that you like yourself.
This is it.
You know, like there are a lot of people out there who are saying, you know, if they say those words, I'm me, I'm Conor, I'm Zach, I'm Jane, they don't like what they see. You know, they don't. Oh my God, I'm such a terror. Your identity is no longer bound up in the external. You're level now, happy in being who you are. So many people aren't. You know, I experienced that feeling that those people feel after I left the army. This huge, crushing loss, like a death, of somebody who is so important to you that you feel, I don't even know if I can keep going myself. You know, you no longer feel that way. I no longer feel that way. How have you done it? I've told you how I've done it. It's just a passage of time and kind of love and support of a great woman. What have you done to...
The name of the podcast, man, you know, flip the script. I had to start talking to myself better. I was horrifically hard on myself, and I feel like you were the same. Because you've always the reason why I seek so much from myself and have sought so much from myself in my life as well is I've grown up with a father who sought a lot from himself. You know what I mean? And I think that, and I want to be at a certain level, so I had to kind of retrain myself to kind of think, do you know what, you're actually okay. If you don't win the title, or if you don't do this or you don't do that, it is all right. Like you're you know, Kerryway Ultra, right, 100 miles into the Kerryway Ultra, my fucking leg locks up. All I'm thinking is, I'm meant to be doing Project 32 in two months. I'm meant to be, you know, I'm meant to be physically ready to do that. This is a race that I really want to win or really want to compete in. Absolutely, not going to lie about that. Really want to compete in it and really want to do well in it. But the ultimate goal was to do the Project 32 before the end of the year, right? And there was I would have dragged myself for 10 or so hours across the mountains to finish that race before. Because I felt like I needed that. I need that external win. That I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. But
at
I'm
that
telling
stage, you're
you,
doing
man,
it for
everybody
every other
else
reason
except
by
for me.
yourself.
And so what I got there when I did that was that internal victory. The internal victory that let me know that I'm actually all right with being me. Regardless of what anybody else thinks. I'm okay with who I am. You know what I mean? Never in a million years did I actually think that I had gotten to that point. until you're there.
Yeah.
Yes, there was dark days afterwards.
Yeah.
I'd never felt in any way close as I felt to when I lost Thai boxing.
Yeah.
Nowhere near it.
Yeah.
And I did feel almost immediately, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
I almost immediately thought I was already dusting myself off.
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be some dust on me for a good while, but I was doing the dusting.
Yeah.
And the reason why my world didn't collapse there and then is because of the work that I've done with myself over the last number of years, making myself believe that I am who I am, and I can try to be David Goggins, or I can try to be whoever the fuck I want to be, but I'm always going to be Conor O'Keefe, so I might as well get to know him and like him.
Yeah. Well, look, you had your existential crisis. You had you lost your Thai boxing family. You actually lost your identity. Just like a snake skin on the ground, and you had to find something else.
Yeah.
That's why that's why I have such huge admiration for you, because you were able to take. I was there, part of your crew, on the Kerryway Ultra, and I thought it was an immensely brave thing to do. The Conor of 3 or 4 years ago wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, he'd have limped to the finish.
You'd have limped to the finish, and you'd have ended up maybe never been able to race again. You could have done so much damage.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You were able to make the decision. You weren't at that stage. I knew then you weren't doing it for anybody else. You were doing it for you. All through my army career, I've been driven. I'm
Yes.
I was
ambitious.
an ambitious person. Yeah, absolutely. I go from joining as a private soldier, and ending up as an officer. Like, there was when I was commissioned, we were the 10th class of officers to come from the ranks since the foundation of the state.
Yeah.
That's
Almost 100 years.
Yeah, so you are in a very select group of people, and all along, like, I was probably the youngest senior NCO to have served in the squadron. As the squadron sergeant. I was used to success. I was conditioned to almost, this is going to end in success. Anything I decided to
Midas
to
touch, everything turning to
Midas
gold.
touch, everything, yeah. Everything, just didn't have that experience that you had, where, early on in life, you had to have, you faced this gigantic, life-changing thing that you had to recover from until I retired, and then I understood. There's I don't think either of us can offer the quick fix to somebody who's going through. And there are, it's not the loss of a title or retirement, because people listening to your podcast can't relate to retirement, and especially retirement from a job like the army, where you're losing your family.
I think
there
a lot
are
of
other
people
things
will resonate just with loss of something, regardless of what it is, a relationship, a job, a
or
person.
not succeeding,
Failing,
or failing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here, essentially, is failure. I have no, I failed as an officer. I'm now failing to bring in the money that I was used to bringing in. I'm no longer, I liked to go overseas, because I know I'm intensely aware that there are people in this world who are a lot less fortunate than we are. Absolutely. So I've been in the places where people are living under plastic, where they're scavenging in the dumps for food and existence. So that's that was part of one of the things that I liked to do as a soldier was to help those people, and then that's all taken away. So I'm now a failure. at some of the things that I have tried, that I have done through, and I'm now no longer able to do it.
And that's what was going through your mind at the time.
And you know, you fought at a high level, and you were beaten. You failed.
Yeah,
You failed at the Kerry Ultra.
absolutely.
It's, you know, it's those, and other people are failing every day, but it's how you react to it. And there is no quick fix. There's no magic elixir. You have to recover from the failure, and there are a myriad ways of doing it. I had the support of Mum.
Yeah.
And
And you had the kettlebells. I want to touch on
and
that
the
too.
kettlebells.
I want to touch on that as well.
I had the kettlebells and I had Mum, and those two helped me to see that no, you're grand.
Yeah.
You're-
Because there
you're
is,
okay.
as you said, there's no YouTube video or book that's going to tell you how
No.
to do this. You have to discover it yourself, and it's
Yeah.
it's dragging yourself through the mud. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
and people telling you to embrace failure, you just don't want to hear it.
yeah, not at the time.
You know, people say, you must be delighted now. You're not. There's no chance that you'll be told you're going to Lebanon in 3 months' time. And little did they know, I would have loved to be told that I was going to Lebanon in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be, you know, all these things that you wanted to do. No, you're actually, you'd be saying to yourself, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm quite sure there are people, you know, listening to this podcast now who are firmly convinced nobody could ever understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
You know, but there are things that only you can do to be able to get out of that spot you're in.
Which is actually
there's a light-
empowering in ways. If you can, like, because
Absolutely.
you know, if you go, if you're saying like, oh Jesus, you know, I need this person or that person to come in and do this.
Yeah.
If you at one time go, do you know what? I'm not feeling the fucking best, but I'm gonna do it.
Do something.
Yeah. Fucking
something.
something. And as you
Yeah.
said there, picking up the kettlebells, right?
Yeah.
You were saying there, because you said to me, you didn't actually get to have to search for meaning
No.
until you were much older than me, right?
Yeah.
In a way, right? Because there was so much negative internal monologue coming from you, right? At that time, it was like, I'm fucking a failure. I'm not a fucking officer anymore. I'm not important.
Yeah.
I don't have something to do.
Yeah.
That
My circle got so much smaller.
so much smaller.
From literally, you know,
Because you're
hundreds, if not
outside.
thousands of people. Yeah.
Whether you wore the fucking uniform for 40 years or not,
Yeah.
there
You're-
is a time where you just kind
You're
of go.
outside the fence, yeah. You're
I
looking through
can
the
talk
crack.
to the lads from Thai boxing about, oh yeah, how's the fight prep going and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
But I'm not in it. You know, I'm not there every fucking night, you know, on the fucking cold pads, seeing my breath billow out in front of me because the place is fucking so Baltic,
Yeah.
and getting ready to hit pads and I'm not doing that. So you're not in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that, like, just for anybody else as well that's listening, right? Do you think that finding something that you can, because you found that something, and it's so strange for us, right, as human beings. I think it's very fascinating to kind of think of kettlebells, this hunk of inanimate metal,
Yeah.
or these fucking runners, rubber attached to a bit of cloth wrapped around your foot.
Yeah.
That's what each of us, let's say, found at that time. And you can attach meaning to literally anything.
Yeah.
It could be picking up, there's a guitar in the corner there. It could be picking up a guitar. It could be writing down something. It could be trying to write a book, and you might never finish the book, or you might never do anything with it. It might just be for you. But like, did you find that, you know, you were saying there about the meaning and purpose, did you find that, like, just getting up and, like, no matter how you felt, because I know as well that there was times where you did feel shitty in the morning times, and kind of just moving differently. You know, I'm your son. You know what I mean? I lived with you for 28 years. I could see that, and you still went in and made it an absolute part of your daily routine to get training.
Yeah.
That's so fucking powerful, because, like, if we feel honestly in our hearts that we're worthless,
Yeah.
if we're going in to train that sends that fucking signal to our brain that we are actually worth it.
Yeah.
We're worth 45 minutes of effort.
Yeah.
We're worth looking after. We're worth making good, better dietary choices. We're worth drinking water instead of drinking fucking bullshit fizzy drinks. We're worth going to bed early so that we're fresh for the next day. And like, do you think that the foundations of you feeling good about your life started by just even those simple things of just getting into the gym for 45 minutes?
Yeah. Not just, in the military, but, in almost any other job that you do. You're faced with a choice. Do something or do nothing. Do something. Do something. Anything. Take action. And that's, that is the essential thing. I do remember saying, sure, there's no point in training now. Like, what are you staying fit for? You've got no fitness test to pass in the army. So, but then you actually was never doing it for the fitness test. I was doing it, to test myself. Can I go from, 16 kilos a Turkish get-up to 20? Can I go from 20 to 24? And can I get promoted from corporal to sergeant? Can I do this next thing? Just taking action is probably key to not wallowing in the shit anymore. And I'm acutely aware that, there are situations for people where this is just so black, and it's absolutely, they can't even imagine getting off the sofa. What is the point of getting off the sofa? It's all starts with that first step, as you used to have it in a t-shirt one time.
Yeah.
It just of taking action, because you're actually worth it. You're actually worth it. Your own value that you might have had bound up in something that is now shattered in pieces around you, and it's not realistic anymore to attach to that thing. Whatever that thing was, just find something else. Do something. If it's only get up off the sofa, go over and make a cup of coffee. Nobody else could do it for you. You did it. You're as small as what's his name? Ended up head of Navy SEALs. Make your bed. If there's one book that I could recommend to
Anyone,
lads and girls from of your age, younger, from this book is like from 18 to 80. You'll get something from this. First, make your bed.
Yeah.
Go out and buy it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's tremendously powerful, because I feel like the first step on any journey, you're wearing a 1,000-pound cloak around you,
Yeah.
And if you can make that first step and throw that fucking 1,000-pound vest, because that's how it feels when you're in that darkness. It feels like you're just, the duvet is 1,000 pounds, and you just don't want to get up, or you don't want to do that shit, because it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you can do it yourself, and because nobody else is gonna do it for you.
Yeah.
No one can do it for you. You know what I mean? You have to actually be able to get up and put that on yourself and actually get that. And I think for me as well, just on a side note, I actually attached meaning to literally nearly everything I did. So there was times where you said there, you don't even want to shower, but I'm showering, and there's times where I'm like, I'd hop into bed, feel like absolute shit, right?
Yeah.
Horrendous. Staying up late at night as well, which is a corollary of this whole thing, because I don't want to be in bed and trying to and close my eyes and be with my thoughts. So I'm staying up late, I'm getting into bed, and I'm sitting there, and there's there's that voice in your head is like, you didn't brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Right? And there's that voice as well that kind of goes, who gives a fucking shit? whether I do or not.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah,
You know?
if you think your life is shit, it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that tiny decision to peel back the covers
Yeah.
and get into the bathroom and brush your teeth can be that meaning that starts.
Yeah.
It can be that first step to literally changing the way you view your life and view who you are. And like what I can say to people as well, right, as just a side note out of the conversation, right, no matter what you're going through, no matter what has happened, no matter how much you think you fucked up your life and fucked up everything and everybody is against you or the cards are fucking not stacked in your favor, right? No matter how fucked up you think things have gotten, things can get better.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that I've had that catastrophic thing happen where I feel like this is horrific. Like, you know, you end up going into prison for 10 years or something like that that's happened to may have happened to some people that listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
I met two gentlemen, I won't name them. They're in the process of addiction rehab.
Yeah.
And I feel like they are just incredibly courageous because it takes absolutely no courage to stay in what you're doing, right? Because it's comfortable. You know what it is. It's not like, it's not asking you to grow, you know? But if you can kind of say, do you know what? I actually want better for myself. I want better for me. And you actually go about changing that, that is huge bravery. So if there's anybody that is listening and kind of going, because this is the thing, like, you know, as I said, there is no video and there is no book and there is no podcast either. You know, I don't think that, you know, that this is going to fix you. But if it can give you the light bulb moment that kind of gives you that thing of, I'm going to make one step today. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to go drink a glass of water because it's good for me and I want to hydrate myself. I'm going to stand outside and get fresh air for 5 minutes today because I haven't left the house in 3 days.
Yeah.
If you can make that step, or if you're listening to this podcast and it helps you to make that step in the best possible way, you're on your own from here.
Yeah.
You know, you're on your own from here and you make the choices. You have the control and the power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is class.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to depend on anybody else.
Yeah.
You have the power and you have the control. And if there is somebody that, you know, if there is somebody listening that is in that situation where they don't want to shower, they don't want to get up in the morning, get help. Because nobody is going to actually bring the help to your door. Get help. There are PA at a house that I have worked with before. They do enormously good work. If there is people that have that in them, you might need help. And the fucking bravest thing that you can do is put your hand up and say, I'm actually struggling and I need help.
Yeah.
Making that first step it sends a huge message to your brain and to your body that we're worth it, like, you know?
Yeah.
So like, that's the thing is, you know, changing that script, like, you know, is I suppose, you know, it's just incredibly important, you know, in our lives. We've been chatting now, I think, for about an hour and a half or so. I don't know how long we've been chatting for, but I've really enjoyed the conversation. Is there anything that you want to add, or is there anything that you want to say to anybody that might be listening, or to anyone at all specifically, or even maybe you want to say something to you from the past?
Yeah, that's a big window to throw open there.
Yeah.
I would like to shout something into the ether. You know, this past week we've had the horrific murder of Ashling Murphy.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to flip the script for, you know, to send a message out there to young men whose ideas about how to be might have been shaped by what they're looking at on Instagram, or, you know, the kind of music that they're listening to, or, you know, please.
Internet pornography. Another huge one.
Yeah. Probably the absolutely worst place you can learn about how to be a man. is the internet.
Yeah.
And internet pornography. And girls do not have to be porn stars.
Yeah.
That's not how, that's not how you have to be.
Absolutely.
You know? You don't have to, like, there's two sides to this argument of, I hear like people pounding the table, toxic masculinity, blah, blah, blah. It's women have a huge role to play in how men will, mothers I'm talking about, have a huge role to play in how their young fellas are going to treat the women that that they're going to have relationships with.
Yes.
We have a situation in this country where almost every woman, to a woman, is concerned about going outside, about going for a walk, have to be back before dark. I can't, like, is this a bit short? Am I going to get all this unwanted attention? Like fellas roaring at you in the street, fellas coming up, slapping you on the arse. That behaviour is, first of all, it's probably generated from. Look at me, I'm a bit of a boy, I'm a bit of a hard man in front of the lads, but a lot of it is because they've grown up with influence from the internet that says this kind of thing is okay. It's grand, and I can blithely walk through life doing this kind of shit, and it just keeps going on and on and on. I would treat women with the respect that they deserve. Would be the one appeal that I can make at the end of your podcast.
Yeah,
and things will get so much better for so many women. And for men.
Absolutely. It goes both ways. I've done, Jesus, like countless hours of thinking on this subject actually since this whole thing has happened, since this tragic death of Aisling, right?
Yeah.
I even actually I'm starting the crewman hikes, men's only hikes, right? And it's very, very important as well, because we were talking about mental health for an awful lot of that there, and men may not occupy the majority of people that suffer from mental health issues, but they occupy a large proportion of people who take their own lives, right? Yeah. So it is important for us to have this space. And I kind of got the idea really from Mel and Gals Gone Wild of having this space just for women. Why can't we have it just for men? And so like maybe I felt like I'm in a position to start these conversations.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we had our last crewman hike, I stopped in the middle of the forest and I said, look, guys, I just want to flag something before we get going here, because it's a really, really important issue. Because what I felt about what happened to Aisling, I felt like, I kind of felt like, sure, what can I do? I'm not going to murder a woman. I'm not going to grope a woman. I'm not going to shout.
That was an attack on every woman in the country.
But it was also an attack on every man. But it was also a call to arms for men to kind of realise that just because me and you, we'd never think about harming another woman, doesn't mean that we can't actually do something, right? And what that is maybe just that change of attitude. Maybe it's just that stopping. And I know that women have locker room chat as well. I know that they do, you know what I mean? They absolutely, they do. But I think that if we can stop this attitude and this atmosphere around that type of chat, we've all had it, that's a very small way that we can have a huge impact on the attitudes of people, right? Mm-hmm. So like that's where I saw myself in this situation of like, there's a huge argument from the male side of it's not all men, and it's a small percentage of men and a tiny percentage of men that would actually do an act like that, right? A tiny percentage. But what it is it's a general atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so...
But it's the, inverted commas, low-level stuff.
That's it, yeah.
That just erodes that sort of, that respect.
Yeah.
That... where, that nurturing that we should be doing for the women that we care about in our lives.
Yeah.
And, these are sisters, their daughters, their
Nieces,
grandchildren, that they have an absolute right to expect that they'll be treated in a way that's, that with kindness, with love, without, having to feel that they're threatened, that they're living in fear, like a lot of them are now.
Even before what happened to Aisling as a runner, I always make myself known.
Yeah.
If I'm passing a woman and there's no one else around,
Yeah.
I'll actually say if I'm coming up behind them, and I was like, I'm just coming up on your right there, just so you know, and it's a weird thing for me to kind of, you do feel like you almost have to, because I know that maybe not that woman, but there is certain percentage of women that kind of go, their body tenses up.
Yeah.
They start looking for their car keys to put it in between their fingers to defend themselves.
Yeah.
These type of things start happening and going through them. So I'm conscious of that, and I think that's basically what women are asking of us.
Yeah.
Is to just be conscious of that, and to be a bit more, to just basically be more aware.
Yeah.
Of how we are, because look, I feel like I've at a fairly high level. I grew up in a house where I raised my voice at my mother, and thunderous, responses from you of you will not talk to your mother like that. That has an effect on people, and as you said there, right, and so I'm getting how to treat a partner from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm getting how to treat a partner from you. So it's on fathers as well. Now, the thing is about mothers is, mothers that are raising sons, mothers generally tend to have more time with children, because it's just
how it is. Yeah.
It's becoming a lot more prevalent that there are working mothers, and there are career women that don't have children, lots, but it is still the fact that there is a lot more mothers at home than fathers at home.
Yeah.
And so in that space, there's an awful lot of opportunity for women to talk to their sons.
Yeah.
And so, and there's an awful lot of opportunity for men to show their sons how to be treated, and to show their daughters how they should be expected to be treated as well.
Yeah.
And because there's been, there's just as much chance that a girl will get into a relationship with a guy and the guy doesn't fucking treat her very well. And if she can identify, well, look, my mom gets treated like this from my dad, I'm not going to stick around for this bullshit.
Yeah.
So there's this responsibility that has been handed, that was handed to us a long time ago. But I think when something horrific like Aisling Murphy happens, it puts it into
just crystallizes,
stark view.
Yeah.
That we need to be better.
Yeah.
We need to be just, and that's as simply and succinctly as I can put it, is we just need to be better men. And I think I'm ready for that challenge, and I'm ready for that responsibility, and I'm ready to pass that on to any children that I might have. And I'm ready to have that in my relationship with Mel, and with Mam, and with my nieces, and with friends that I have, both male and female. And I think and I'm very glad that you raised that, because it's something that it's something that is very good to get, because look, you're generationally ahead of me as well, so there's a lot of people that are your age as well that are still, that they float the line. Yeah. And they are just as susceptible to this locker room type chat, to this kind of, you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? This respectful way of speaking to women. I will call people out. I will call people out on it, and I will say, do you know what, that's actually just fucking bullshit.
It's not okay. Yeah.
It's not okay. And if we're going to be mates, I'm not going to have that conversation with you. You know what I mean? So thank you so much, Dad, for coming on. And for being a great guest. I really, really enjoyed the conversation with you. Thank you for giving up your time.
No worries, kid.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Really happy days, boy. Happy days. It's great to get this on, because we love that now. It's locked in. You know, we have that for the rest of our lives. So I really, really appreciate you, man. And I'll just before we finish actually the podcast, I want to say, you know, you said that you admire me. Like I've admired you for like my whole life, you know, and I've always sought to be a better person, whether that be a better sportsman, be a better, you know, friend, be a better Connor, you know, has come from both of you guys, from Mam as well, you know, and this, you know, it was just great to finally sit down as two men and to discuss this. It's been great, man.
Yeah, it wasn't like a father-son chat. It was like two friends.
Absolutely, and that's what I count you
Shoot the
as.
breeze.
You know, you're not just my dad; you're my best mate as well.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers, man.
Thanks, brother.
Okay.